Good afternoon, Year 7. I want to say a special hello to Miss Rule and Mrs. McNichol. And hello, Esther, Chelsea, Dennis, Noah, Caleb, Ruby, Shelby. Hello, Sam, Mikhail, Lenny, Gus, Olivia, Noah, Alana, Harry, Benjamin, Jet, Dante, Gemma, Sophie, James, Ruth, Christelle, Michaela, B, and Isabel. A big hello to all of you. Know that I'm thinking of you as I'm preparing these lessons. I hope they're helpful. I want to remind you all that I am on Teams, so you can message me at any time, and I'll get back to you that day with any feedback or to answer any questions. So we are going to continue today, and it's a very big day for you all. So for these two lessons, I'm going to expect that you have finished writing this practice essay. Now, last Thursday, we spoke about the task, and I'll just remind you of the task sheet here. Now, this task sheet should be given to you as a hard copy. It's also on sector, okay? But you should have a physical copy of this that I want you to take home and speak to your parents about, your siblings or anyone who can help you, just to make sure you know exactly what you're doing. So last week, we were talking about the fact that you would choose one of two questions. There'll be two questions that you're given. You choose one. Your next step is to highlight the key terms and to look up synonyms. So what are different words you could use for that term? So the next thing we were going to do, now just to remind you of that the actual term that we had, our practice one was that it is hard to live without hope. Okay, it's hard to face challenges without hope. That was the actual question. Okay, then we came up with our own contention, the big argument, which is the question's answer. So I'll talk about that in a moment, what the contention was, and we'll have a look at that now. So last week, you may remember that the contention that I came up with was the bone sparrow demonstrates that without hope, our challenges are hard to face. Now remember that the contention is very similar to the question. The question was this: the bone sparrow shows us that it is hard to fight without hope. Discuss. So do you remember that was the actual topic? Then I had to think of a contention, and so did you. So my contention was the bone sparrow demonstrates that without hope, our challenges are hard to face. And I had got three arguments. Last week I only had two. I've actually written three arguments for us. So my first argument was hope reminds us that hardships are temporary. Second point is hope is grown in friendship that allows us to share our struggles. And the third argument is hope helps us to believe that we can fight for a better tomorrow. So my contention is supported by three arguments. Now, by now, you should have written your own contention, and hopefully you have thought of arguments. If by now you have really struggled to think of your own contention, I'm going to encourage you to write this down. So right now, as you're listening, you should be writing down the bone sparrow demonstrates that without hope, our challenges are hard to face. This is also on your PowerPoint, okay? So write it down somewhere. And if you hadn't already thought of your three arguments, you can use the three arguments that I've thought of as a practice. Hope reminds us that hardship is temporary. It has grown in friendship. And it helps us to believe that we can fight for a better tomorrow. So you can go back to the PowerPoint, slide 12, and you can write these arguments down if you haven't already got your own contention and your own argument. Excuse me. Now, by last Thursday, we actually had asked you to please write your introduction. A quick recap for you. The introduction, it uses ICS. Now, again, you can go over the PowerPoint yourself later. I is for introduce the text. We introduce the title, the bone sparrow, the author, Zana Fralin, the text type, it is a novel or a book, and a brief synopsis, which is a summary of the text, which you have in your own words, 1 to 2 sentences. Then you bring up your C, your contention, and the contention is what I just shared with you on the previous slide. This puts forward your overall argument and it answers the essay topic, the essay question. But after you've thought of your contention, you then need to think about three arguments. Now, we've written 2, but we actually want 3 from you ideally, okay? If you can only think of 2, that's okay. But for your assessment to get top marks and to do well, we do expect 3 arguments done very well. But if you can only do 2 well, then I'd rather you just do 2 well than do 3 in a rushed way that isn't comprehensive. So in your signpost, your key arguments, in your introduction, this is basically a sentence or 2 that tells the reader, so tells the audience who you're writing to, which is me, what are the 3 arguments that you're going to be discussing. Now, this is where we got up to last Thursday. So right now, we want to talk about how to write your TEEL, your body paragraph. So, as I said, if you haven't already written your introduction, you can copy mine. And I want to show you how I did that. So, the introduction, The Bone Sparrow, a novel by Zaina Fralin, is a book about an unlikely friendship between an asylum seeker boy and a girl on the outside who help each other to have hope for a better world. That is my introduce the text, okay? The grey is I. C is the blue here. The story demonstrates that without hope, our challenges are hard to face. That is my contention, C. So I've got I, C, and then S is signpost my arguments. And you'll see here, class, I've actually got 3 colours. Argument 1 is green. Argument 2 is actually red, and argument 3 is the orange. It shows the reader that hope reminds us that challenges are temporary and helps us to fight for a better tomorrow. It also demonstrates that hope is grown in friendship that allows us to share our struggles. So you'll notice that I've actually copied my 3 arguments, green, red, and orange. I've done that just to show you the difference. My 3 arguments, I've written them succinctly in the introduction after the contention. Now, as I've said here, and you can go back to this yourself and look at the PowerPoint on Sector, if you have not written your own introduction by now, which you should have done on Thursday, and I understand you didn't have a lot of time because you were writing your contention and your arguments, you can please copy my introduction down. I'm very happy for you to copy that today, because this is just about you learning and about you practicing. And tomorrow, we're going to do a new question, and you're going to write your very own. So today, I'm happy for you to copy mine. So once you've done that, and you may need to do this after the class is listened, because everyone's at a different journey. Some of you have written your intro, some of you haven't. So you can go back to the PowerPoint at any time. Now that I've got the 3 arguments, I want to show you what we need in a body paragraph. TEEL. So I'd love you to call that out with me. So give me a T, T, E, E, give me an E, another E, and give me an L. Everyone calls that L. I don't know if you did that. I hope you did, but TEEL is what you want to remember. T stands for topic sentence of the paragraph. Now the topic sentence, this sentence should represent your main idea, your argument. The topic sentence of each paragraph should be able to give the reader a clear idea on what your essay is about. Now we've already got our arguments. So remember back here, these are our arguments. So I would actually copy these as my T. So paragraph 1 T is this one. Paragraph 2 T is this one. So that's the very beginning of my paragraph. Then we have E for evidence. Now evidence, it could be a quote. Okay, so it could actually be using inverted commas to say something that someone has said, like Subi or Jimmy or Queenie or Eli or Harvey or the Ma, anyone like that. You can use someone's words, or you can use a series of events from the text that reinforce the argument. So even if you don't have a direct quote, you could explain what happens. So for example, a series of events could be the time that the detainees actually put, sorry, I've got a bit of a croak in my throat. So for the event, it could be when the detainees were starving themselves and doing a hunger strike. Another event could be when Jimmy got very sick and Subi had to save her. Another event could be when Eli was killed by Beaver. So these are events that you could refer to without actually having to use a quote, inverted commas. But if you want to actually say what someone said, you use a quote. Very important, students, that you need evidence. So my evidence is evidence of my argument. So if my argument is hope reminds us that hardships are temporary, where is my evidence from the text? Do I have proof from the novel? And yes, I do. And I'm going to show you that in a moment. So this is an example. Hope reminds us that our hardships are temporary. That's our topic sentence, T. Then my evidence is this. Subi reflects upon changes in his sister, because his sister was becoming sadder and more angry, when he says, I always told myself that someday Queenie will remember how to look forward again. That's my evidence to say that hopefully she can think about the future and not just think about the present, and she can have hope. So that's the evidence that the hardship is only temporary. So that's my evidence. And then after my evidence, I then need an explanation. You're explaining your evidence. So yes, you've given me an argument and you've provided me evidence, but now you need to explain it in more detail. Make sure you spend time developing this so it will not be missed. Now, my explanation could be enhanced. I've given you a very, very brief one as an example. You could give me more than this. So I've said the evidence. I always told myself that someday Queenie will remember how to look forward again. Then I says he hopes, so Subi hopes, that Queenie will look to the future again because this will help her cope, realizing that her challenges are only temporary. When they know that their hardship is temporary, it makes them easier to face. So my third sentence, he hopes up to temporary, that's me explaining my argument and my evidence. And the last thing we need is L, the link. How does your body paragraph relate to the actual question, to the actual topic that you're writing about? To help you remain on track, you need to relate each paragraph back to your contention. So I actually would say here, that because they know hardship is temporary, okay, that's my argument. Hardship is only temporary, and that's what hope reminds us of. It makes them easier to face. Now, I've said that it makes them easier to face because actually, if you remember up here, my contention is that hope helps our challenges become easier to face. Without hope, we can't face them. So in my L, TEEL, when they know that their hardship is temporary, it makes them easier to face. I've actually linked it back to my contention. So recap, TEEL, really important. Topic sentence, evidence, explanation, link. I want you to say it with me. T is for topic sentence. E is for evidence. The next E is for explanation. And then L is for link. So I've given you an example of paragraph 1. I want you now to have a turn at paragraph 2. Hope is grown in friendship that allows us to share our struggles. Now, I want to show you very quickly, I actually forgot to do this, sorry class. So before we do paragraph 2, I want to show you paragraph 1. What did I do to find the evidence? Okay, I actually went to my quotes, my quote table. Okay, do you remember this quote table we've been working on? This quote table is so important because what I did, I go, okay, I'm going to look down hope. What can I see in hope that might relate to things being easier to face? Looking down, and I couldn't actually find the one I wanted to use, but I actually found one from the text in chapter 16, which I included. So in chapter 16, it says, on page 111, I always told myself that someday Queenie will remember how to look forward again. That's Subi. So what I did, I got that from here, chapter 16, and I used that quote here, okay, in my paragraph. So for paragraph 2 and 3, you've got this one, hope is grown in friendship that allows us to share our struggles. I'm going to now look about where can I find an example of hope being found in friendship. How can friendship grow our hope? How can friendship make us hopeful? How does friendship help us to share our struggles? Because it all connects back to the idea about our challenges are hard to face.